Be wary of your surroundings when you're dealing. Police will notice that you're handing over product to providing samples to customers.
You see the game, you know what to do it, man. You know
Yes, sir. So do we start with the plan, or we gotta buy a seat? Oh, okay, we start with plan.
Yeah, we have $0 for him.
We got $80 on our card though.
Needs water. Use tremors.
Bet. That's the vault. That's the safe house. Okay. Get the teapot. Yeah.
Okay, that's how.
Do you need to turn the sensitivity down? Yeah.
Low key, I think mouse and keyboard is better. Yeah, mouse and keyboard is better. How do I?
Let's just click and drag.
Yeah, mouse and keyboard is better.
Oh, there's a move all button. I don't know what the button is. So you gotta water the. Shit, bro. Utilities probably cost money in this game.
Think so?
Bro, they got us watching for cops and shit. They probably got everything. Bro, what the fuck, bro?
What is
that backflip though?
Wait, am I doing too much?
I don't know. Pour water over the target. You're not even pouring over
my
the
God,
target.
it's
Pour
not
over the
moving.
target, bro. There you go. There you go. There you go. You got it. All right, now trim the hedges.
Oh, this game is serious, bro.
Okay.
Package all the weed here. So we'll do it.
Click and drag from your inventory. Product, package. Oh, pack.
I have to do this. What? How much is that?
I guess we're going. I guess we're just doing G's, bro. I don't know.
Yes. Okay, jeez.
Place in the hopper, bro. What is this, Minecraft? No way.
This is like serious, bro.
This is like a job, bro. This is like a this is a 9 to 5, bro. Or 5 to 9.
You think my laptop can handle this or not?
It doesn't look that intense, bro.
Right? Okay. Maybe I download on my
You
laptop.
get this on your laptop, bro. We can play together.
Yeah.
All right.
Done? Pack?
Output. Drag the output into your inventory. Yeah.
Okay. Then
Exit. Escape.
you got van. This is serious.
RV, bro.
RV?
Should you put your stuff back or no?
Nah, fuck. We just carry
Go
it.
outside.
Oh,
Is that a customer?
sorry, old boy.
Uncle Nelson. Morning, bud. Come talk to me after you're done everything in RV. Okay, so I guess there's still something to do in RV.
Oh, yeah.
Respond to your customers' messages in the messaging app.
What the fuck's the message at? Where's my phone?
Check your bed, maybe. I don't know. Your table. You got a phone? Oh, top right, top left.
That's escape. How do I do that?
Press it. Tab. Maybe.
Ah, yeah, you play this game. Hello, I'm after 2 times OG Kush. I can pay 60 for it.
Andy. Oh, they got like a reliability meter. What is that?
Like if they pay, I guess.
Oh, you gotta schedule your fucking shit, bro. Gas station 6. Okay. Go back. Doug.
Oh,
OG
shit.
Kush 90. Yeah, you got enough. You got enough in stock. Meet you outside the blue house. Okay, one guy at the gas station, one guy at the blue house.
Got you. Is your,
Oh, this guy paying big bucks for the this guy.
he's not reliable,
He's not
bro.
reliable though.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
We're doing all at the same time, bro. We think we can cut that?
6 a.m. to 12 p.m. We got time, bro.
What time is it?
I don't know.
There's no time on the phone. Go back. Press one button.
6 a.m.
Alright, one blue house, one. You gotta hop in your truck, bro.
Yeah.
Lovely day. That's one. Deals. Business with the fellas, down at the motel. Nelson's package. Everything. Okay. Okay, let's take a truck. Let's go.
Yeah.
So we got 8. we got deals for 6.
You could drop. Nigga, this game is sick.
We're gonna drive to town.
Yeah. Oh, whoa.
Yo, so we gotta pay fucking car insurance and shit.
What the fuck? Bro.
You might need a controller to drive. Low key. Might be easier for you. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Where the fuck are we? Like fucking Texas or Nevada or some shit, bro? Arizona?
No, this game is so proper. I did not think it was like this.
This game's still in early access too.
$20. Well, this game would have. Bro, I ain't gonna lie. This game would have done numbers in high school, fam.
Oh, for real, bro.
You mean Emmett would have ran this up, bro?
Fucking Justin, bro.
Justin? Loki, tell Justin about this. He might tweak, bro. Honestly, yo, I think Justin will love this game.
Yeah, for real.
It's a gas station, yeah?
Serena Flats, yeah, gas station, and then one blue house.
How do I exit? Garbage?
Garbage.
Cigarettes?
Siggy.
I can't figure out what it is. Actually, just garbage. Someone back here, yeah?
There's a guy.
Shout out my boy.
Andy. Item splitting.
What is it? What did I do?
That's one. That's two. Yeah. There you gotta be in your vehicle within 20 minutes. Yo, check the dumpster. Open the dumpster. Oh, this is where you hide from the cops.
Fine. Alright, back in.
Alright, blue house, and then where's the other guy at? Pawn shop.
Oh, it's right here. It's
You didn't even park nowhere, bro.
my boy.
Make sure you
Well, this nigga is hot.
legalize a ranch, bro. What is this guy talking about? You gotta do this quick, bro.
Oh, why?
What's the cops come, bro? Oh, yeah. See, look, so what someone's on
We saw that shit.
Satisfaction. Oh, that's a satisfaction. Blue house. Yo, blue?
Blue? Oh my god.
Oh,
That's us.
sorry, man.
Is this
Ain't
us?
no way it's the. Oh, okay. I thought it was the boy that house. This right here? Yeah, this guy looks like he's wearing a wire, bro.
But you gotta, like, relax. You know?
Make the rounds on contacting apps.
Nigga, you like that, my boy? Oh,
Oh, he like that. He like that.
Yeah. Yeah. OG. Brothers just want OG. Yo.
Check the phone.
I'm just trying to get a safe space. Let's go. That nigga is high too, bro. Let's park right here.
Motel. Oh, you gotta pull up to those guys, right? Later.
Oh yeah, I do.
Tap.
Oh fuck.
Make the contacts. Oh, okay. Chelsea. Unlock this customer by giving him a free sample.
Okay. So I have to go on the map? Where's the map?
No map.
Use your map to see the approximate location, monitor, common focus.
Press M maybe? Press enter.
Enter?
No, there was like some shit at the top.
Where?
It's gone now. What is this? Oh, what the heck?
That's why. Fair enough.
Oh, doctor's office. It's right behind you.
Oh, it's right here. Oh, that's okay. What are the chances?
Yeah.
Oh.
Give her a free sample.
You can have one.
Give her a free sample of fucking watering pot, bro. She's just gonna light up right here in the middle of work? That's not true. Oh, very nice. It'll be great for me. Okay, new customer unlock. Yo, check it.
Yeah.
Making the rounds. Purchase soil from the hardware store.
Oh, I just seen the hardware store.
That's right. It's the blue building right there. To the right. I say kook. Jacob. Oh shit.
This is soya?
Yeah, two.
Two?
Yeah. 2x soil.
Yeah. That's it?
I think we might need some more baggies, bro. We only have like 4 left.
This guy like.
It's $1 each.
Yeah, bread, bro. These guys just give us bread. Let's just get 20. Just call it a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Alright.
Body search in progress. What do you mean body search in progress?
Someone getting body search? Turn around. Where's the cop?
You saw a cop?
Oh, there's a cop car at the bank. To your left. Right there.
Police station there too, bro.
That's what I meant. That's right next to the bank. Oh, yo, he's body searching you, bro. Bro, you gotta move it. You gotta hide it when he's on the thing.
How do I do it?
You gotta hide. You gotta just hide it when he's on the thing. Click and hold to conceal items.
What the fuck?
He's got profiled, bro. What the heck? I say you and your uncle.
So crazy.
Balling. Okay. Yo, what did we get? 6 pillies? 6 packs of pillies?
Pillies?
Check your inventory, bro. Look at that.
Oh, we got hella shit.
We got 5 seeds. Do you wanna go buy another flower pot or something?
That's smart. Yeah, let's up this. Let's up the operation.
Cause you bought 2 pots and things like that.
Yeah, that's good. That's it, bro. This one?
Oh, we can't get a pot.
Can't get a pot. Yeah. Maybe this one. Okay, this.
Oh, it's a grow tent.
Ooh.
Top of 10, yeah.
This one?
Second one. $100.
That's sufficient, bro. We spent too much money.
Oh, we gotta go to the ATM to fucking
Deposit it?
Right across the street.
Brother. Yes, sir. This game is serious.
This is actually crazy, bro.
Oh, it's a bitch.
Some Steve Lacy shit, bro.
Oh, I bought 2.
Alright,
I bought 2. Oh, fuck.
Your inventory's full now. Just drive home, bro. What time is it now? We do this shit a day? All in day work. Shit's serious, bro.
I'm driving sick. I'm sick, bro. Yo, one hand Louis. One hand. No hands.
You do it? No hands? No hands?
Oh my, how am I doing it? This is crazy.
Yeah.
I go lie. I think we get jumped on this, bro.
Yeah, I think we can definitely get them on.
Let me call it. I bet we get him on tonight, bro.
Nah, it's like 11, bro. He's probably asleep by now.
No. So like multiple people, you got one person growing and the other person selling shit?
I guess like yeah, one person fucking packaging the product, one person trimming the plants and shit.
Yeah, this is the whole operation, bro. Yeah, he's definitely asleep. This is sick. I'm so impressed, bro. I'm genuinely so impressed. I did not.
This shit's actually like so fucking gameplay, bro. Oh fuck.
So why did my shit do a 360? I don't get it.
Bro, I don't know what you do. I don't know what you were doing, bro. Alright. Should we call it a day?
I think you do, bro.
What time do we need to wake up, bro?
6 a.m. So that's what we started the day. I guess earliest to 7.
I guess we need a certain amount of sleep. Just sleep. Saturday, day 6. Product sold 6 OG Kush. Okay, experience. Level up this shit.
There it goes. Level up.
Day 2. Uncle Nelson, no. We got caught with the police.
Operations. Oh, fam. GG's, bro.
Now we gotta start a new town, bro. Complete the prologue. Staff don't work for free.
They'll automatically from their briefcase on their bed. If it's empty at the start of new shift, they won't work. All those crazy.
Oh, we gotta pay them in the morning and
If
shit.
they get staff,
No, let's get Justin, bro. Let's just get Justin, bro.
small time drug dealer from the south. The first time with no cash, no product, no contact. I didn't even tell him.
This shit's actually gonna be tough, bro.
The only way to make money.
Time to get to work. Shit make me feel like
It's also
like a Lucian's live,
Yeah,
bro.
bro, it's also the time, bro.
This
Fuck.
shit's cinematic as hell, bro.
This is sick, bro. I'm thoroughly impressed.